As a CX leader, you've probably become reliant on technology, making it an essential component of not only your job, but also your daily life.
As the appetite for information continued to increase, sales teams wanted information specifically around their customers. The product teams wanted to know trends about product features. Business analysts wanted to be able to analyze the information to the nth degree. And so we started building platforms to accommodate all of those needs.
The influence of technology on the customer experience and how it has evolved to become such a vital tool for CX professionals. On this episode of the CX Leader Podcast.
The CX Leader Podcast with Steve Walker is produced by Walker, a business consulting firm that helps our clients unlock the potential of their customer experiences by placing the customer at the heart of all their business decisions. You can find out more at walkerinfo.com.
Hello, I'm Steve Walker, Chairman and CEO of Walker Information, and also the host of the CX Leader Podcast, and thank you for listening. On the CX Leader Podcast, we explore topics and themes to help leaders like you leverage all the benefits of customer experience and help your customers and prospects want to do more business with you. Thanks to all our listeners, the CX Podcast has become the place for CX pros and business executives who want to put the customer at the center of their strategy, and we're really grateful for your continued loyalty and listenership. You know, our topic today is technology, and it has had a significant influence on the customer experience. From online surveys, contact lists, data warehousing, analytics, metrics, security, there's just a ton to know. And CX leaders could lose sleep worrying if they're keeping up with the pace of emerging technologies. Recognizing how critical this is to the customer experience leader's profession, we're dedicating the next few episodes on the influence of technology in CX. And I can't think of a better place to start on this technology journey than my friend and colleague Brian Kovacs, who's joining us live in studio for this episode. Brian's our Chief Information Officer at Walker, and really, for the last 25 years, has been the architect of our strategy as it relates to incorporating technology, a strategy that I feel like we've done pretty well at, keeping up with the rapid pace of change. So, Brian, thanks for being on this CX Leader episode.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Brian, just for the benefit of our listeners, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what your passion is in terms of our business and why you've been doing this for as long as you have been.
So I'm the Chief Information Officer and currently our practice lead for all of our implementation and engineering services here at Walker. I've been involved in sort of every aspect of technology for the past 25, almost 30 years. And that's everything from covering data center and infrastructure management, software product engineering, IT security, data management and governance, data privacy, but really with a sort of a clear focus on developing CX solutions that deliver positive business outcomes for our clients.
So you and I have worked together for between 25 and 30 years.
Yep.
And if you go back, that's like the early 90s,
Yeah.
when we kind of started to collaborate. And that's also about the emergence of the internet as a business tool.
I actually think we got connected to the internet back in 1995.
Yeah. And prior to that, we did almost all of our data collection via the telephone.
Yeah, that was the predominant methodology, yes.
And so that was kind of one of the first big shifts, I think, from a technological perspective. But if you even go back further, and I love to tell this story for people who are relatively new in the business, but at one point, maybe in the early 80s, telephone cost was the biggest part of data collection. It was way more expensive to call long distance than it was to hire people to do interviewing. And I think most people today just can't even fathom that.
Yeah. And then you also have to look at the reporting side. As the internet started to evolve, our predominant sort of deliverables were these massive crosstabs.
Yep.
Right?
Green bars.
Our green bars, right? Stacks of crossbars. I can remember them being, a half a foot high.
Sold it by the pound.
And then what we basically did initially is moved sort of those offline crosstabs to the internet, building sort of an interactive sort of interface for clients to sort of navigate to the information rather than sifting through a big binder.
So it's clear now today that technology is not really just kind of nice to have, but it's really essential. What's just kind of your take today on what technology can do for CX practitioners?
From my perspective, technology needs to keep up with the speed of business and the demands. When we talk about speed, it's speed of the platform. It's reducing the time to value of being able to onboard quickly to the platform when you purchase something. It's the speed of executing the program, speed to insights. And then if you look at customer expectations, they are set extremely high. They are looking for platforms that are extremely versatile in nature, that are able to capture information across phone, web, email, SMS, as well as chat and so forth. And the expectations are extremely high that you want to be able to analyze and synthesize the data as quickly as possible. And that's for everybody to be able to do that, because everybody in some form or fashion is sort of a data analyst today. It needs to have some self-service capabilities, easy to use, and the platform needs to be completely accessible across mobile technology today.
Yeah, it's really it's a customer-focused evolution, really, is we get more used to using technology to get more done and use our time better. It's just a natural thing. Well, take us back to the early days, when we first started developing technology. And tell us a little bit sort of about the early days that preceded where we have come to today.
Yeah, I actually have a timeline in front of me. So back in the early days, we talked a little bit about our first entry into online reporting. But it wasn't until 1999 until we launched our first online survey, predominantly with some of our large IT enterprise customers. From a reporting standpoint, we basically provided basic frequency counts and scores predominantly around one sort of survey. As the appetite for information continued to increase across these enterprises, we weren't necessarily delivering results to our key contacts. The sales teams wanted information specifically around their customers. The product teams wanted to know trends about product features and so forth. In addition, business analysts wanted to be able to analyze the information to the nth degree. And so we started building platforms to accommodate all of those needs. We leveraged things like data warehousing to be able to provide a platform to house historical data as well as embedding operational and financial data, which in the end ultimately provided more insights to the end user. And as we progressed over time, you saw some trends happening with technologies like text analytics, right? The ability to categorize unstructured data, the ability to extract sentiment or tone of a comment. In addition to that, you saw the need to do additional integrations with like CRM platforms. And so that's sort of how our technology sort of evolved from the late 90s up until about 2016, 2017. The one topic I didn't touch on was having the ability to embed analytics. Analytics was a key sort of differentiator with our platforms. Not only did we provide sort of basic, what I would refer to as descriptive analytics like means and variance and things like that, correlations, but we also embedded some advanced machine learning algorithms to search for patterns within the data that wouldn't normally be seen by an individual. And I think that's where the technology is going to continue to evolve, is more around these machine learning and predictive sort of algorithms.
So really, we were early on, and people may not even know this, but we actually had an online survey tool at one point.
Yep.
And
sort of a do-it-yourself one.
Yep. And we also had a platform for reporting we called Smart Loyalty.
Correct, which was sort of a pre-canned, out-of-the-box solution, one-size-fits-all.
Yeah, and it really provided all the insights that we typically would have gotten on paper in an online environment.
Exactly.
So, and it really revolutionized the business from being lots and lots of labor to really leveraging technology. So let's talk about how the tools have evolved. Let's talk about sort of where things are today, given this historical perspective.
So, the tools weren't just used for sort of capturing information. They also embedded what we at that time called the close-the-loop process or the follow-up 360 process, where you started embedding workflows for organizations to act on the feedback and be accountable. Additionally, there were more needs for advanced sort of reporting, where organizations wanted to be able to look at results across their entire organization hierarchy, whether that was regional based or sort of a product hierarchy. And so they wanted the ability to start at a very high level and drill down from the very high level all the way down into the individual results.
All right, so let's talk about today and how the tools are evolving and kind of given the historical perspective, where are we today?
So where I think it's going to head, or where things are headed, the analytics are going to become more mainstream. Really, the platform is going to change the way work gets done within an organization. And what I mean by that, there's going to be advancements using predictive algorithms that are going to help prioritize, for example, what activities a salesperson needs to do on a day-by-day basis. For example, they may come in the morning and they have a listing of customers who may need some sort of intervention that they weren't aware of. So, for example, product managers may be getting their innovation sort of pipeline filled with ideas by predicting customer needs, right? This is where the future's going. Operations may be getting some sort of early warning system where service levels may potentially drop significantly in the future if there's not some sort of investigation that's done.
So you've given us some really good examples of how functions within a business might be changed by the advent of technology. Just from your experience, and not asking you to betray any client confidences, but can you give us an example or two where you're actually seeing businesses start to apply these kinds of innovations?
Yeah, one example comes to mind is sort of predicting some sort of intervention. Okay, we've done this in the past where we've taken a use case where, if you look at response rates today, 20% or 25%, for example, participate in a survey.
It's great, and it's very good.
Right, and there's triggers that are based to follow up on unfavorable results.
Correct.
But what about those other 75%? Don't you think they need follow-up as well? And so you can use sort of a predictive algorithm to go ahead and identify at a very high probability which customers may need some sort of intervention, even though they didn't participate in the survey process.
So this is really important for our listeners because, if you can follow up on actual survey responses, you can also model that across the rest of the universe,
right,
and pick up a lot more impact.
Right, and the reason for that is because these platforms are now able to embed a lot of this operational data and financial data, and these predictive models are becoming more accurate.
Yeah, and we can sort of profile the type of customer who had this issue and say, these 50 customers look a whole lot like this one.
Exactly.
So, how's it affected your job? You've been leading technology-enabled professionals for a long time. How have you seen the business change in terms of what kind of talent and what kind of people you're?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at sort of what's happening here at Walker today, right? We sort of been exiting, sort of us developing our own tools, and now we've partnered with a world-class organization. What we're doing is taking the talent that we had in the past, that really understood how to develop the tools, manage the data, all that sort of stuff. And now we're helping to accelerate with the onboarding process and doing implementations and really helping reduce that time to value for customers to get up to speed on these platforms and how to really maximize the use of it.
Yeah, that world-class platform that we partnered with is Qualtrics. They're a good partner to us, but there's also lots of other technologies out there, and we're trying to figure out how it all sorts out. But I think you make a point. The power in a platform like Qualtrics is incredible compared to where we were 10 years ago, where it took lots of different specialties to put this together. And now a lot of this is found in one single platform.
Exactly.
I'm talking with Brian Kovacs, who is the Chief Information Officer here at Walker, and a real pioneer in the use of technology for customer experience. Brian, what advice would you have for a CX professional who maybe feels like they're not quite up to speed on technology, or they're a little concerned that technology, just because of their background, is going to pass them by? What would be your advice? What's some quick take-home value for the CX professional?
Yeah, some of the things that come to mind if you're really looking at trying to successfully launch an engagement within sort of a large enterprise is, I am very keen on really understanding who's using the tool and what the adoption rates are, because there's a lot of areas within the organization that is using the platform, right? And so those key stakeholders, you want to get a sense for how well they're using the information day in and day out, what the trends are, and keeping a good pulse on that. The other thing is making sure that you sort of you educate these users about how to use the information and take action on it. And then the last thing, we always talk about people, process, and technology, but we're missing one critical thing here. It's all about the data as well. The data component, making sure that you have good data governance, good data, the data is clean, because all of the data that we have in place is going to drive all of this future activity.
Well, Brian, you've been a great resource for our listeners here, and if they wanted to get a hold of you and talk a little bit more about technology, could you share with them how they might contact you?
Yeah, they can reach out on LinkedIn, or they can send me an email at bkovacs, that's B-K-O-V as in Victor, A-C-S, at walkerinfo.com.
And if you want to talk about anything else we discussed or about how Walker can help your business customer experience, you can contact me at steve.walker@walkerinformation.com or call me here in the U.S. at +1 317 843 8890. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, Brian, or any other of the great people here at Walker. We would love to tell you more. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to the CX Leader Podcast. You can go to walkerinfo.com/podcasts, and you'll find links to iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play. And we've also started posting our podcast to our YouTube channel as well. You can find those at youtube.com/walkerinformation. Thank you for listening to the CX Leader Podcast, which is a production of Walker. We're a business consulting firm that can help you make customer experience your biggest competitive advantage. Find out more at walkerinfo.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.